Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collett. Joining me today is Sarah Ciardella. She is a mother of two. Her son is autistic. Her daughter is non-autistic. Tyler Williamson of Families of Autism Coming Together, also known locally as FACT. And we are so happy that you are both here today on Parenting Unscripted. Of course, the topic that we're going to be focusing on is parenting and autism, and then different resources in the community that are out there. Sarah, we're going to start with you. You're the mother of two. And as we said, your son is autistic, your daughter is non-autistic. So can you walk us through a little bit about when you started to notice that maybe your son needed, to be checked, and what that process was like?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'd love to share a little bit about that with everyone. My son, Nolan, he is autistic. He's 10 years old now. Mm-hmm. He was diagnosed at the age of 18 months.
Wow.
It was pretty clear from a very early age that there were a few differences that I noticed about him. And I would say that started around the 6-month mark. I was lucky enough to have a few friends that had children right around the same time as me. Mm-hmm. So picking up on even just the little small social deficits was clear in my case with Nolan, which is not the case for every child with autism. Yeah. It was very clear at a young age for him.
When you say really clear social deficits, I mean, as young as 6 months, what were you noticing?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So around the 6-month mark, he was not responding to greetings. He was not responding to any of the other babies or small children in his vicinity. And I noticed when I was at get-togethers or birthday parties, my friends that had children that were around the same age as him, like 6, 7, 8 months, were engaging socially with other babies and children and adults. And they could, they were trying to imitate what they saw around them. So like he wasn't trying to imitate a wave. He wasn't babbling. Still to this day, I've never heard mom from him. So.
Yeah. And for the testing that he went through, for parents who have not had to go through this yet, but they know that they're on that track, what's that testing like?
Nolan is 10 now. So when we first started noticing some differences, my strongest advice would definitely, when you're taking your children in to those incremental well checks, to start that conversation with your pediatrician. I had started that conversation probably around 9 months old with my son's doctor, and it was something that he kept an eye on. And when Nolan was about a year old is when my pediatrician said, I do have some concerns. There are some markers here that could be autism. So let's go ahead and get a referral in to go to a developmental pediatrician to kind of get some of those questions answered. And the reason being he put that referral in so early is because there are wait lists, especially in the Hampton Roads area, because we do have. So to start that conversation early, even if it turns out that they don't need services, but getting on that wait list sooner rather than later is really important.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because just get in there and get moving, get the process rolling.
Even after the diagnosis, you need the diagnosis to get services. So then once you've waited for your diagnosis, you then get on wait lists for the services.
More wait lists.
Yes, more wait lists. You get wait lists for your wait list.
Yeah, there you go.
What I say.
Yeah, Tyler, I want to bring you in now because you are the executive director of FACT, which is huge in our area for families of children who have autism. And your brother is autistic, correct? So you've been around this your whole life.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, Brian, my brother Brian was diagnosed. He's about 20 months younger than me, and he was diagnosed, I think, around the age of 3 or so.
It's
So,
amazing to me how young children can be diagnosed with it. I didn't realize, even as young as 6 months, Sarah, you're saying you noticed that. I never realized that it would
Yeah.
be that young. For those, Tyler, who are not familiar with FACT, and Sarah, I know Nolan is
Yeah.
at FACT summer camp right now.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing in the area.
Yeah.
Tyler, for people who are not familiar with FACT, can you let them know a bit about the organization?
yeah, sure. So we are FACT, Families of Autism Coming Together. We have been around, I think it's 29 years now since we first started our summer camp, which is still our biggest program. But we offer a wide range of social and recreational programs, as well as we started adding some vocational programs in recent years for adults, for kids and adults with autism. So basically ages 6 and up. So whether that's summer camps or we do things all year long during the school year. So whether that's after school, weekends, sports, art, music, dance, we've had all different types of programs. We just finished up our first gardening program in like May. So learning different skills, but really all of those programs are just reasons to get our individuals who are on the spectrum out, interacting, socializing, working on those social communication skills in a safe and friendly environment where they are valued and allowed to be who they are, and really just having that community, having that sense of being around your people, which is always important.
Absolutely. Sarah, how did you hear about FACT?
I heard about FACT. My son was diagnosed at 18 months in the state of Oregon. So I relocated to the state of Virginia for the abundance of resources.
Yeah.
So I actually found out about them through the Autism Society of Tidewater.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tyler, I feel like you are constantly growing your programming at FACT. I realize I'm looking at the time and I know that I could talk to you for about 20 minutes about just one thing with growing the programming. But what would you say is the overall goal of FACT in about 30 seconds? What would you say you really want the community to understand?
We just really want to have individuals with autism have a place where they can feel at home and be themselves and have friends and, be a part of the community too. We're very big on community integration. So we're out and about in the community. Nolan is out, I think, at the pool right now. So, we don't just stay on site. We want our autism community to be a part of the Greater Hampton Roads community. And we really want to have that Greater Hampton Roads community be a part of our autism community. So a big community of, inclusion, acceptance, and
Yeah, inclusion and acceptance. I think that's what every family wants for their children, no matter who they are. We're going to talk a lot more about that when we come back on the other side of the break. For now, just stick with us. We will return. Thank you for joining us. How about if I turn all the mics on? I think that'll be helpful. Thank you so much for coming back to Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collett, and joining me is Sarah Ciardella. She is a mother of 2, and Tyler Williamson of FACT, Families of Autism Coming Together. I sure appreciate you continuing our conversation. And before we went to break, we were talking about the importance of inclusivity for children. So, Sarah, I know you were nodding your head vigorously when I asked that question. Talk about why you got Nolan involved in FACT's programs.
Sure. A little portion of Nolan's diagnosis that I forgot to mention is that Nolan sits on the end of the spectrum where he requires higher level of care. And he is non-speaking and has limited receptive and expressive communication. He's a very busy little boy. It takes a lot of work to keep him safe, but he's also very joyous and very happy.
Yeah.
So because of that high level of care, when Nolan was younger, my options were very limited in community outings, especially since I also have a daughter who's about 22-month difference. She's younger. And I was just very limited on where I could go, and safe options. And also when we were out in the community, because he's not one of those kids where you have to guess if he's autistic. Like, it's clear.
Yeah.
It's clear. So we have been met with a lot of challenges being in social situations. There are a lot of people that, might not quite understand what's going on.
Right.
And a lot of kids do have questions or try to say hi or are curious. He has a device that he uses to communicate. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So how do you, just out of curiosity, how do you handle those situations in public? You say that when Nolan's there, there's no question that he's autistic. How do you handle when kids have questions? Do you want them to ask or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's such a great question, is because if you see someone in a social situation, clearly they're having a hard time or there's a difference. What I've taught my daughter is, when we see a challenging situation going on with another family and she looks over, I do remind her that could be someone like Nolan. And I said, it's okay to look, but make sure to just say hi, or just say, what's your name? Just to acknowledge them as a human and just say, what is that? Like, what are you using? Questions, I welcome.
Yeah.
I welcome questions.
I think that's very nice. Because I know a lot of kids and sometimes even adults just want to learn more
Exactly.
and figure out the best way to be accepting and to be helpful. And Tyler, when it comes to FACT, and I know Sarah was saying that Nolan is nonverbal and he does need a bit of assistance. How does FACT work with children? And I know that there are adults there who are also autistic when they're nonverbal. Do you have programs that specifically help them?
We try to adapt all of our programs to be open to everyone who's on the spectrum. I'll use an example with Nolan. So we had a musical program last year, and Nolan was one of the performers, and so he is not speaking, but we adapted that play, and he got to come in and with his assistance from our buddy Daniel, who he works with very often. He still was a part of it. So a lot of the participants were doing singing and everything, but Nolan still had a line. He used that communication device that Sarah was talking about. He would come in and he would, do the transitions through all the different scenes. So we were able to incorporate him, even though he doesn't sing. He was a big part of the musical. And I remember I made the show, but I couldn't make the dress rehearsal. And one of my staff was like, yep, Nolan was the only person that was on point with the timing. So, so really, finding ways to have him be included, right? In something that would be traditionally you wouldn't think of would have someone who's non-speaking. I mean, he was a huge part of it. And I love that. I mean, I had myself a brother who's minimally speaking, so he can give, basic one-word answers or the occasional thing. And so we had very similar experiences that Sarah was talking about growing up. But, he was always welcomed at FACT, and we can adapt things to all the different individuals. So some individuals are very schedule heavy. So we'll use we have a very detailed schedule for every day of summer camp. They know, all right, at 11:50, we're getting out of the pool at Ocean Breeze, and by 2:00, we need to be on the bus. We use timers for those who need it. We use a lot of visuals as well. So, maybe it's, bringing along something that we know that the individual likes, and they can point at it, and they can, that's how they can communicate. So there's a lot of different ways, and we adapt it not just to, the minimally verbal or minimally speaking versus the ones who aren't, but just to every individual, because even ones who are very verbal may have certain challenges. So we adapt everything to that very specific individual and take a very individualistic approach, which is very important to us. And we also have a lot of staff so that way, like when we're at summer camp, when we're out in the community, we're out at Ocean Breeze, we have at least one-on-one staff for all of our kiddos. So that way they have that individualized support, and that staff can get to know them and customize their experience to make it as successful as possible for them and what they like to do and what they want to do.
I think that just sounds so fun. Sarah, I saw your whole face light up when Tyler was talking about Nolan performing in that show. What was it like for you as a mom to be able to see him perform in a way like that?
A big reason why I wanted to come on here, and I was so honored that Tyler thought of me, is I want those other families out there that might have a situation like Nolan or Brian to know, like, your kids are welcome here, and it was not only amazing for me as a mom, I was definitely crying.
Oh, I didn't bawl my eyes out. Are you kidding?
But more importantly, his sister, who is neurotypical, we basically, sorry to flip level here, but we go to everything that's available. And I have Nolan try it all. And that's a big part of that, is because like Tyler said, all of the kids are included, in every event. So my daughter has been able to see her brother in situations she might not have otherwise been able to watch him. What am I trying to say here? Sorry. That she's been able to see him in a different light and see
Yes.
what he's capable of, because there are just not many opportunities for kids like Nolan, unfortunately, to be involved in those types of situations. So, yeah.
I think that's really, really special. When we come back, I want to talk about getting the community involved. Tyler and Sarah, we were both chatting in the break about some really great experiences that people in the community have when it comes to whether it be employment or volunteering. So I can't wait to talk more about that on the other side of the break. Stick with us, everybody, and we are going to be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collett, with our guests, Sarah Ciardella and Tyler Williamson. Sarah, I'm going to go back to you for this part of the conversation because I know that your daughter is non-autistic. Have you noticed, does she seem more well-rounded of a worldview than perhaps other kids? Does she seem to have more patience or understanding?
I would definitely agree with that statement. I've used the opportunity of educating her about her brother to also expand that on educating her of other individuals with different needs. Like I've always, we have books, and I always encourage her to watch some TV shows that have people with different challenges involved in them. So like I've definitely always taught her, if you see someone out in the community that has a wheelchair, you can look at them, of course, say hi, but don't touch their wheelchair. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or you can ask them, you treat them, like I was saying earlier, as like just another human being, because I think that's what everyone craves, is to just feel accepted. And when you're out in the community, you don't want to feel like there's this spotlight on you. You just want to feel like you're just another person walking around the store being treated like anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I do think that it's really great. Tyler, I mean, you're such a shining example of this, and you'll probably be like, ugh, Katie, why are you even saying this? But you really are a shining example of this because you've devoted your life to this cause, So like Sarah's daughter is perhaps even more empathetic to the community and understanding. And here you are devoting your whole life to trying to make sure that those with autism are included and made to feel just like everybody else. What was it in you that was like, you know what, this is going to be my life's mission?
Well, it's just growing up with it. I mean, you mentioned being more patient. I am exponentially a much more patient and much better person because my brother is exactly who he is. And I credit my brother a lot with the things that I like the most about myself. I have plenty of flaws too, but I think I would have a lot more if it wasn't for Brian. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a huge part. And I think, something that Sarah mentioned was like just treating people like they're everybody else. That's a big thing we really try to ingrain in our staff and also the people that we work with is, look, just because my brother or Nolan can't have a conversation with you doesn't mean my brother's 34. Treat him like a 34-year-old man. I talk to my brother and have, one-sided conversations all the time. I tell him about, different things, and I talk to him like an adult, Same thing with Nolan. He's 10. Just because they can't verbally express those things back to you in words doesn't mean they can't understand every word you're saying.
Exactly.
Brian is extremely perceptive about his surroundings, and he's very smart. My mom used to always joke that growing up between me, my baby brother, who's, and then my dad, Brian was always the most helpful one in the kitchen because she would say, hey, can you go get the salt? And he would go get the salt. He wasn't, so, yeah, that's just, a big part of that inclusion. And really, and the only way people are going to learn about that is if you're out in the community, you're getting out there and they get to see it firsthand. You can do all that. But, the amount of, we were just at Ocean Breeze yesterday, and, people will come up and ask questions or be, a lot of the time we're like, sorry, I can't answer your questions because I got to run after this kid and make sure that they're safe. But, a lot of time they just get really involved. And that's a lot of thing, I know we want to talk a little bit about the volunteers, but like we bring in volunteers who are not on the spectrum, ages 10 to 17, to our programs so that they have the individuals with autism have a built-in friend, and they're working those social communication skills, not just in a bubble of autism, but with their neurotypical peers, because that's who is the majority of the population. That's what they have to deal with when they're in school or out in the real world, but also so that those peers can come and learn how to socialize and communicate with the individuals with autism. It shouldn't be a one-way street of just the autistic individuals having to assimilate into the neurotypical population. It should be two ways. And so bringing in those volunteers is crucial for that, because they're at a young age and they get to learn and experience that and get to have that first-hand knowledge. And, as they grow up, they get to be, a lot of them become advocates, or like me, it was my summer job in college, and now I'm here, which is
it's your
awesome.
career.
Yeah.
I think I love that. And Sarah, Tyler was mentioning the volunteer opportunities, and kids, Tyler, you said as young as 10 can volunteer?
Yeah.
And Sarah, you volunteer as well for the summer camp. Is that right?
Yes, I work at the summer camp. This is my second year. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Right.
I love FACT. And my experience as a parent, seeing both sides, where I was so nervous the first year I dropped off Nolan, because he had never done anything like that before. But also now working the camp and working some of the recreational programs, I see when you have a child with such high needs, to see people choose to be with your child, and the amount of compassion, empathy, and love that everyone at FACT, any parents out there listening to this, if you have a kiddo with high needs, maybe, on the higher end of the spectrum, try out FACT.
Yeah.
Your kiddos are welcome. They're going to be loved, and you'll see what they're capable of. I just can't. And my daughter is actually counting down the months until she turns 10 and she can start volunteering herself. She's so excited about it.
I think that is so sweet. Sarah, what do you think about the fact that this organization really works hard to get the community involved, to learn more and to participate?
I was so taken aback when I learned how the summer camp operates, especially the way they integrate the higher needs individuals, because you don't have a lot of experiences like that in the autism community, where we are out. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I found out Nolan was going to be just out doing all of these things all day, I just thought that was so special. I really do. I think it's so valuable, and this is such a treasure in the community to have, not only in the autistic community, but the neurotypical community too, just by the way that FACT approaches it.
All right. And we're going to wrap it up there, because I just think everything that we've discussed today is so beautiful and so important. And Sarah said it best, just go check out FACT. And we have that information on wavy.com. We have a lot of info about FACT, because Tyler, for a couple of years now, we've been doing quite a bit with you. And I appreciate you both sharing your knowledge and your experience. And you're going to come on again? Let's come on again, and we can have an even deeper discussion about it, because I know there's so much that we haven't talked about. If you all could hear what we discussed in the breaks, you'd be like, man, we need another 30, 40 minutes. So again, thank you both so much for joining us today. And everyone, thank you. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I think it's some really important knowledge for you to have. So continue to watch Parenting Unscripted. Every Tuesday morning is a new episode at 9 o'clock. Thank you in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. So thank you for joining us today, and be good.